These are the top 10 thrash metal albums of 2025. This is part of my end of the year series where I break down the best releases across different metal genres. Over the next several videos, I'll be covering heavy metal, death metal, power metal, and plenty more. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss them. When it came to thrash, this was one of the hardest lists to put together. I started with 18 solid contenders, and narrowing them down to just 10 felt almost impossible. There were a lot of strong releases this year from both veteran bands and new acts, each bringing something new to the genre. But after a lot of listening, re-listening, and tough choices, I finally locked in the lineup. So with that said, here are my top 10 thrash metal albums of 2025. Let's get into it. Coming in number 10 is Embrace the Awakening by Mezzrow. I actually discovered this band by chance, even though they've been around for a while. This new album was released only a few weeks ago, and it grabbed my attention immediately. Mezzrow have a very old school sound, clearly inspired by the classic Bay Area thrash era. To my ears, they have strong shades of early Metallica and Testament, but they still manage to bring their own voice and energy to the genre. The music is heavy, aggressive, and filled with thrashy guitar riffs, but there's also a melodic edge running through the songwriting. That combination gives the album a really compelling balance: high energy, riff-driven thrash, paired with melodies that stick with you. On top of that, the band brings a darker, more sinister tone at times, which adds another layer of atmosphere to the record. The performances are tight and passionate, with plenty of killer riffs, sharp transitions, and a good number of guitar solos that really elevate the songs. Tracks like In Shadows Deep stand out immediately, but honestly, the album has several strong moments that make it worth diving into from start to finish. Overall, Embrace the Awakening is a fantastic blend of old school influences and modern execution. Even though I found it late in the year, it impressed me enough to earn a spot. That's why Mezzrow is at number 10 on the list. Coming in number 9 is Birth of Malice by Destruction, released on March 7, 2025 through Napalm Records. Destruction is one of the legendary German thrash metal bands, and going into this album, I honestly wasn't sure what to expect. When it was first released, my reaction was, it was good, but nothing that really blew me away. However, after giving a few more listens, the record clicked with me more than it did the first time. There's a lot here that rewards repeat listens. If I have one criticism, it's a cover of Accept's classic Fast as a Shark. It's played faithfully, and the performance is tight, but it doesn't bring anything new to the table. It's fun, but ultimately unnecessary. Everything else, though, is pretty killer. No Kings, No Masters stands out right away with its old school thrash energy. Fast, sharp, driven by that trademark Destruction sound. They've included a self-titled track, Destruction, which feels odd to see after more than 4 decades, but the song itself absolutely rips, packed with chunky riffs and that classic chugging guitar sound. Another highlight is Scumbag Human Race, a high-speed thrash track that captures the band's attitude and aggression. Overall, Birth of Malice turned out to be a grower. I honestly didn't think it would crack this year's top 10, but here it is, earning a spot at number 9. Coming in number 8 is Baptized in Blood by Tyrants. This one is interesting because I never reviewed it on the channel in any capacity. I actually discovered it a month or two after its release, and it immediately grabbed my attention. I made a note to revisit it later. When I finally did, it held up even better than I remembered. Tyrants are a thrash metal band from Brazil. Their sound is raw, aggressive, and absolutely relentless. They have a strong resemblance to Sodom, but with a noticeable South American edge that gives their music this unique flavor. The album is packed with gritty riffing, ferocious tempos, and a surprising amount of guitar solos for how stripped down the production feels. Lyrically, things get a little cheesy at times, but honestly, that only adds to the charm. The whole record has that early 80s extreme metal energy, channeling the primitive fury of bands like early Celtic Frost or Venom. It's very direct, very in your face, and features some prominent bass lines that cut throughout the mix more than you typically hear in modern thrash. What stands out most is how well they blend the German thrash influence with that of the distinct South American brutality. Even though they themselves are Brazilian, it gives the album this hybrid personality that feels both familiar and refreshing. Baptized in Blood is raw, loud, and unapologetically old school, earning its place here at number 8. And speaking of Sodom, at number 7 is The Arsonist by Sodom. This is the legendary German thrash metal band's 17th studio album, released back in June. Their first full length in 5 years. Honestly, the record is exactly what you expect from Sodom in the best possible way. They're not reinventing themselves or experimenting with anything new. Instead, they're delivering pure, raw, authentic thrash metal, the kind that has defined their legacy for decades. The album features some standout tracks that show Sodom firing on all cylinders. Battle of Harvest Moon is one of the highlights, packed with fast, heavy riffs and those signature galloping rhythms that have been part of the sound since the early days. The Spirits That I Called feel like a direct callback to the classic Agent Orange era, capturing that old school aggression. One of the most meaningful tracks is Witch Hunter, a tribute to their original drummer, Christian Witch Hunter Dudek, who passed away in 2008. It's a respectful nod to the roots and a reminder of how long this band has been shaping the thrash metal genre. The rest of the album sticks firmly to the formula, straightforward, unfiltered thrash from start to finish. Like I said, you know exactly what you're getting with Sodom, but that consistency is part of what makes The Arsonist worthy of this list. It's classic Sodom done right, and that's why it comes in at number 7.
Sometimes I feel like I just wanna run.
Coming in at number 6 is Your Friend by Drain. This is the band's third full-length release, dropping fairly recently on November 7, 2025 through Epitaph Records. It's a quick, punchy album, just 10 tracks, about 28 minutes long, but Drain makes every second count. Musically, the record sits right in that space between hardcore and thrash, leaning heavily into crossover thrash energy. Songs are fast, high energy, built around that California hardcore swagger the band is known for. Even though it came out toward the end of the year, it made an immediate impression, and revisiting it confirms just how fun this album really is. Stealing Happiness from Tomorrow, one of the standout tracks, carrying a bouncy, almost playful groove while still hitting hard. Loudest in the Room shifts into pure old school hardcore territory, short, aggressive, and full of attitude. Then there's Who's Having Fun, a track that's almost like a pop punk song, but it gets really heavy later on. It shows the band isn't afraid to mix things up while keeping their edge. Overall, Is Your Friend may be short, but it's packed with energy, personality, and memorable moments. It's an album that's easy to replay and easier to enjoy. For all those reasons, Drain earns a spot on this list, coming in at number 6. Coming in at number 5 is Frequency of Evolution by Flames. I only recently discovered this band and they immediately grabbed my attention. They are a Greek metal band. I'll admit I'm a little biased because Greece is one of my favorite countries when it comes to metal, but Flames genuinely earned this spot. At their core, they're a thrash metal band, yet they incorporate elements of black metal and death metal in a way that feels natural and seamless. They add intensity without ever sacrificing their thrash identity, a balance I'll be mentioning again when we get a few more albums into this list. Frequency of Evolution is packed with energy from start to finish. The tracks are short, sharp, and dynamic, giving the album excellent replay value. There are some standout cuts right from the beginning, including the opening track, Old Hunter, which sets a tone with aggression and speed. The album also explores darker territory with tracks like The Arsonist and Ornea, leaning into the blackened edge without drifting away from their thrash roots. But it's not all darkness. Flames know how to have fun. The track Thrash and Beer brings a more upbeat, Municipal Waste style vibe, showing the band's versatility and a sense of humor. I found this album by chance. It quickly became one of my favorites of the year. It's intense, replayable, and very well crafted, which is why this album, Frequency of Illusion, takes the number 5 spot on the list.
Annihilation.
Coming in at number 4 is Bellum by Testament. This was easily one of my most anticipated albums of the entire year. I've been waiting 5 years for a new Testament album, and after being a fan for about 35 years, the excitement was very high. Fortunately, Bellum delivers. It's a very solid album with a strong sense of identity. Shows the band still pushing themselves creatively, even this far into their career. One of the biggest talking points on this record is how Testament incorporate elements of black metal and death metal into their sound, so they kind of go away from the thrash roots. But with that being said, the songs are very strong. The album's only real drawback, in my opinion, is the ballad Meant to Be. It's not a bad song, it just kind of like interrupts the flow a little bit, and it's a little long. But with that being said, Bellum is one of Testament's best albums in many years. I thought this was going to be number 1, but it wasn't. There are actually 3 more albums I have coming up. 2 newer bands with 1 veteran band, which will be coming up soon. And number 3 is Changelings by Species. This is my dark horse pick for the entire ranking. I discovered this band completely by chance. They were recommended to me by Mark from Metal Never Dies. And considering they're a more underground act, it's pretty impressive that they ended up placing ahead of Testament on this list. But after listening to the album a few times, I had to put them up high. Changelings really deserves a spot. It's a technical thrash metal album, just through and through. Songs are complex. They are densely constructed. They have exceptional musicianship and intricate progressive structures. But what really impressed me is that despite all the technicality, Species still manages to make the songs really catchy. The album never feels like it's technical for the sake of being technical. Everything serves the songwriting. You get a ton of technical thrash elements, rapid fire riffs, sharp transitions, and dizzying guitar work, but the band also blended touches of progressive metal, folk metal, and traditional heavy metal. The drumming throughout the record is fantastic. The bass playing is full of personality, and the guitar solos are everywhere, delivered with precision and flair. This was the album I least expected to place so high, but after giving it a few listens, it became clear that Changelings is something special. It's ambitious, it's engaging, it showcases a level of creativity that really stood out in 2025. For all those reasons, Species takes the number 3 spot on this year's thrash metal list. So now I have a veteran band making a big comeback. At number 2 is Dissonance Theory by Coroner. After a 32-year gap since Grin, Coroner came back with one of the smartest, sharpest, and most forward-thinking thrash albums of 2025. Dissonance Theory is everything you expect from a band known for pushing boundaries. It's also surprisingly focused and fully realized. It's thrash metal from a higher consciousness, the sound of 3 musicians who understand the genre on an almost scientific level. What stands out is the songwriting. These tracks are dense, intricate, and constantly shifting, yet nothing ever feels confusing or self-indulgent. Songs like Consequence have thunderous riffs, complex guitar chords, and moody transitions that feel both progressive and thrashy. The Law starts off deceptively straightforward before exploding into some of the fastest, tightest riffing Coroner have ever written, and the closer, Prolonging, serves as a triumphant release, blending heavy atmosphere with these Hammond-style organs that remind me of Deep Purple, and just adds a surprising emotional punch. Performances are in top form. Tommy Vettorelli's guitar work is methodical and chromatically colorful. Ron Royce's vocals are grittier than ever, and Diego Rapachetti's delivers one of the most disciplined drum performances of the year, and in punchy, dirt-textured production, and you've got an album that feels like it's a modern album, but it doesn't lose that old-school Coroner sound. This comeback is very rare, and Dissonance Theory earns its spot almost at number 1. It's at number 2. But there was one album that came out earlier in the year, and I felt it was just a little better. At number 1 is Wrath and Ruin by Warbringer. The album dropped fairly early in the year, and right out the gate, people were calling it contender for the best thrash metal album of 2025. After revisiting it I can still say holds up incredibly well, every bit as strong as I remembered. What really stands out about Wrath and Ruin is how Warbringer blend elements of black metal and death metal into the sound, but in a very subtle, controlled way. They enhance the intensity without losing their thrash identity. If I were to compare it to Testament's album, Bellum, I'd say Warbringer do that fusion more effectively, and they bring in those extreme influences, but the core of the music is still unmistakably thrash. For anyone unfamiliar, Warbringer are a newer band from Ventura, California. They formed in 2004, and this album showcases exactly why they have become one of the most respected modern thrash acts. Songs here are fantastic. The Sword and the Cross stands out because lyrically it's almost like a power metal epic or a Ronnie James Dio type of song, but musically just pure ripping thrash. And Better World is another highlight, delivering tight riffs and explosive momentum. And Neuromancer brings in some really cool bass-driven sections that add a lot of character to the track. I could easily go on, but I want to wrap this up, keep it brief. My number one, Wrath and Ruin, came out early in the year, but it held up, and it's my number one. So that's all for this episode. I will be putting all of my best of 2025 videos in one playlist, and I'll add them as I make them. I'm going to put the playlist right here. If you're watching this when it first came out, there's probably only like one video there. But if you're watching it later, you might see more videos there. But I want to do that just so everything can be in one place. So make sure you're subscribed, because I will be doing more videos throughout the month of December. I have power metal next, death metal, rock, heavy metal, all that. I'm doing it all December. And thanks for watching. See you in the next one.